Hi guys, and welcome back to another video, or welcome if this is your first time here. My name is Dana, I'm a mama to 4, and in today's video I'm going to be sharing how we do science in the little years. We do not use an actual formal curriculum, especially really from the grades like preschool all the way up to probably 2nd or 3rd grade. So I thought I would kind of share with you how we do science in our home in case you're also new to homeschooling and might be overwhelmed on whether or not to do a formal science curriculum. So yeah, with all that being said, let's go ahead and jump into today's video. So science in the little years, this is something that I have honestly struggled with quite a bit because it can be really overwhelming, especially in the online community and online space, to see everybody have a different curriculum, especially when it comes to science and history. And you see so many beautiful ones, and sometimes it can be overwhelming to not really know which one to pick. But for me and our family, and I just know my kiddos' learning styles, while textbooks are wonderful in the little years, I think they're really challenging for our family in general just because of our learning styles. My little ones are definitely more hands-on, and if it's a living book or something that is actually something they're interested in, then they are all on board with it. But a textbook style it doesn't fit our family right now, and that's okay because it's in the little years. So today I'm going to be sharing with you what we do for science in our home. It is a lot of science, and I'm going to be honest, has mostly to do with outdoor play. Now we do have some favorite living books that I'm going to be sharing with you today when it comes to really making that learning come to life. But when it comes to science, we are a more Charlotte Mason type family when it comes to what we learn about. My kiddos, like I said, love the outdoors, love nature. So a lot of these things I'm going to be sharing with you are things that we do to kind of be outside together as a family, some tips to get them outside and to learn and explore, child-led learning and things like that. But yeah, so the first thing I would suggest, especially if you are in the little years and you might not want to do a formal curriculum, I would suggest that not just, especially as we're coming up on the summer months here, is not just sending your kiddos outside, but to take them with you. And I feel like when we lead by example, and this is not just for education and homeschooling and getting your kiddos outside, I feel like this is for everything in life, that when you do something and your kiddo sees it doing it, they're like little sponges. They just copy everything we do, whether that be good or bad. It depends on what it is. And so we're going to take as going outside is a beautiful, wonderful thing. And so to take them outside and take them with you and engage with them to really get them started in the outdoor exploration. But they really do follow us, and by following our example, so the more they see us doing it, then they will want to do that too. Once we do go outside, and once we are out there, to balance it between free play or free exploration and kind of actual intentional teaching moments. And most of the time my kiddos just free play outside. They'll be outside for hours, especially during the summer. But the balance between really intentional training, whether it be looking at buds or looking at different flowers, what type of tree something is and things like that, that's more of like the intentional hands-on training. The next thing to do is really take the opportunity, so when you are being intentional, it doesn't have to even be very long, honestly, maybe just like 10-15 minutes to really get them started before they go off into their free play adventurous world. But one of the things I want to mention when it comes to intentionality is really teaching them how to see with their eyes, listen with their ears, really engaging their senses. And that's a huge part of science. And when they're able to experience it versus just reading it from the book, like if they're able to see with their eyes, this is what a bud is, this is what a bud looks like and feels like growing from a tree, instead of just looking at the seasons change, how that looks like in a book, but actually experience, like maybe cut off a little bud tree, and then in the spring you cut off a little other piece, and so you have this whole season change, but you're actually visibly seeing it and you're watching it come to life, and just that hands-on sensory experience. And then they're also hearing with their ears, and you're training them like what the different bird sounds are, and you're just filling their mind with all this knowledge, so then when they go outside and start free playing on themselves, they go to something like, oh, this is what this is because I was taught that. And so then they're able to hear different sounds and be like, well, that's what that bird is. And so really balancing the time between letting them free play and explore and do everything wonderful on their own, because honestly that's when imagination comes to life as well, is when they are free playing, but to also balance that with the intentionality. And when the two are combined, it creates just an unmatched education when it comes to comparing a textbook versus real life. So the other thing I wanted to mention, especially when it comes to learning about science in the little years, and a part of them learning and growing, as I mentioned before, they're using all their senses outside as it is, because they're not only given time to do that, and they're given time to really develop that sense of wonder and just curiosity and just excitement when it comes to everything around them. We used to live in a small town, and I would always kind of feel the need to be out there with them, but now I'm so thankful we have a space in the country now to where they can kind of roam around. Now they still have their perimeters where they need to stay, and they have their outdoor rules, I should say, but for the most part I feel much more at peace and at ease when they're just outside wandering around, especially as they're a little bit older. Now 2 years ago I probably would not have felt like this. I would have been outside with them because they're all tiny, but now they're at the age where they can just really free play and explore so much better and so much more now that they are a little bit older. So I wanted to share one of my favorite Charlotte Mason quotes before moving on to my next point here, and that is, give your child a single valuable idea and you have done more for his education than if you have laid upon his mind the burden of bushels of information. So I'm going to translate this in the best way I know how, and translate this in the way that kind of like how I view this quote. But for me, especially when it comes to outdoor play and your intentionality with training them to, experience the senses like the bird sounds and the tree names and things like that. But it also goes into reading books as well, to where no, my kiddos probably would not do well with the textbook style of science, but they love the actual living books with science. So the Living Forest series, I don't have the books with me, so I'm going to insert screenshots of what they are, but it's the Living Forest series. I love this series. It not only brings these animals to life, they learn everything about the animal's habitat in a fun, humorous way, how they live, how they interact with other animals in the forest, and it's just an amazing series. I also love the Homestead Tale books. I have shared those ones multiple times on my channel, but those again really bring the animals to life to the point where they can really dwell on the story. It's not like a textbook where you read a fact and then you move on, memorize it, and you're done, and you really don't come back and think about it. Like, yes, you know the information, but I feel like with living books and living stories, it really gives the student and our children time to ponder what they read. Because yes, a fact is something that, yes, you can maybe remember, but an actual living story, like, it's funny because they'll remember animal facts that we read from a story and how they interacted with other animals in the story because it was funny and it was well written, more than if I just gave them little pieces of information here and there. While they do comprehend and understand both, I really do sense a more like a lingering thought process when we complete a story versus if I just told them a fact. So for example, my little guy, he loves toads. He's always loved toads and frogs, and a lot of the times he'll ask me questions about toads and frogs, and we'll look up kind of some of our favorite things when it comes to frogs and toads, and he'll be like, okay, that's cool. But when we read a living story or a story about frog and toad, for example, he'll just really bring that to life and he'll just ponder it, and then that's when his imaginative play will take over. So these living stories having to do with real animals or real habitats, especially the Living Forest series, really brings that to life to the point where he really just ponders these animals and the way they live. So really bringing those living books to life, incorporating that with the outdoor play, makes for such a beautiful, beautiful science experience. So I'm going to share with you a few tips on how we really get our kiddos to be outside in general. Now, when the weather first starts warming up, the kids cannot wait to practically live outside. They love being outside. Really, once we hit early spring, you can just sense the excitement and the joy because the sun is out and the grass is turning green, and they just dream of their beautiful filled summer that they're going to have. So one of the things that we do, however, and this is going to be in late summer. One second. Do you want to come see mommy? This, of course, is going to be weather permitting, but one of the rules that we have, especially if we haven't been outside yet and we need some motivation to get outside, one of the rules that we have is like the 20-minute rule. Again, I said weather permitting if it's not too hot or things like that. We have a little visual stand timer, and then we also have like a colored visual timer. I'll insert both above here so you know what I'm talking about. But we'll have the kiddos choose one of those timers. They'll take it out with them, and then we'll flip it over, and it's normally 20 minutes. And then we'll say, you know what, if you don't want to be outside after 20 minutes, it's totally fine, you come back in. And what has happened 99% of the time is around that 10-15 minute mark, they'll start to lose track of time, and then they'll be off into their own imaginative world, and it'll be hours later when they finally are like, hey, I wonder how much time we have left. And I'm like, oh, the stand's been long gone by then. But really giving them a visual timer to where if they don't want to be outside, that's totally fine, but at least they are kind of you know, I mean, it's hard to describe really how that works, but really that stand timer and the visual timer lets them know like, hey, if they really still feel like coming inside and just being indoors, that's totally fine. But we are going to give it a try today to be outside. And like I said, most of the time they'll lose track of time and be off for hours. So that 20-minute rule has really helped us, especially on those days when we might not feel like going outside, but we still do it anyway to really get engaged into nature and things like that. So that's one of our ways that we do that. Another thing that we do in our family, and this is just our family in general, is we actually have very select few outdoor toys. That way when they are outside, again, you're incorporating that living hands-on science experience by really getting them engaged in the actual nature itself, not necessarily the toys. Like a lot of the times in the summer, I think of all of our toys being more indoor time. So when it's dark outside or on a rainy day, that's great. But when we are outside, I love for them to really get their hands on into nature, whether that be digging them or a little shovel where they can dig out earthworms. They make earthworm farms. They go frog hunting. They do have bikes. They love doing their bikes. They have a couple like ride-on vehicles, so things like that, obviously with like wheels. We have one really big swing in our backyard. I think eventually it'd be great to have a play set. Right now it's just not something that is in our budget, but eventually it would be great. But just really limiting the outdoor toys. And then for them, my son also really likes taking his trucks outside and pretend like he's one of the tractors that we have in our backyard here. Like when they're planting season or harvesting season, he really enjoys taking his tractors and combines and following them along. So he loves doing that, but really just keeping the outdoor toys to a minimum. That way, like I said, they can really engage their senses and really engage with what is around them. So another thing that we love doing, especially in the summer, and that is doing a simple mud kitchen. And I would recommend just going to the thrift store, get real pots and pans. You can typically get some like really banged up pots and pans at Goodwill or a thrift store for 99 cents, $1.99, somewhere around there. Get a handful of those and some actual real kitchen utensils. Again, they're only gonna cost 99 cents, but to get hi, are you gonna crawl away? And they will love the feeling of playing with real pots and pans, real utensils. They just have so much fun with it. So I highly suggest doing the mud kitchen. You can do it really affordably too. So another thing that I wanted to share, and again, this is just something that works for our family, and that is we actually keep our house fairly warm. We really keep our house around 75 to 78 degrees in the summer. And mostly that is so there's not a huge temperature difference between going outside or coming inside. And there would be no want or desire to be outdoors. So really keeping our house warmer, especially during the day. And then in the evening time, that's when we'll typically turn it down a little bit to cool everything off for the night. Because it really does help the transition between going in and out of the house much easier overall. Last thing I'm going to mention today, and this is my favorite thing, and this is why I cannot wait for the weather to warm up, and that is just meals outdoors. When it is warm out and the day is just beautiful, the sun's out, or if it's cloudy, if it's warm out, typically we will be eating lunch outside. It is so much fun. It's one of my favorite memories, honestly, of just setting up a blanket. We'll eat probably 3 days out of the week. We'll probably eat a minimum of 3 days. We'll probably eat outside for those days, and it's just so much fun. And well, honestly, it's not just lunch, but it will also be dinner sometimes as well. And it is so much fun to kind of just sit outside together, listen to nature, be in nature, and it really does create such a beautiful family connection. I'm going to share with you another quote. I love quotes, and it really helps me to kind of print these quotes out and put them around the house, so it really brings meaning to what we do. But one of my other favorite quotes when it comes to meals outdoors, and this is another Charlotte Mason quote, it's all the time too. The children are storing up memories of a happy childhood. 50 years hence, they will see the shadows of the bows making patterns on the white tablecloth, and sunshine, children's laughter, hum of bees, and scent of flowers are being bottled up for after refreshment. I love that because it really brings into a whole big picture of, you know, you're doing this in the little years, and yes, it creates such a beautiful family connection in the little years together currently, but the bigger picture is they will forever hold on to these memories of, and it's funny because like, sometimes when you go over to your parents' porch, you sit on the front porch, you can almost hear the childhood laughter, which is hard to describe. But you can kind of sit there and you reflect and you look back and you can hear the laughter. You know what I mean? It's like those are the things, those are the moments you remember. And a lot of those moments of laughter come from being like outdoors together, whether it be with your siblings. And a huge gift that I want to give to my children is the memory and the feeling of laughter and love and just joy, and that it comes from being outdoors together as a family as well. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed kind of hearing how we do science in our home. It's very, very different. And again, we're not going to be doing a formal curriculum this year. That will definitely change as the kiddos get older. But for now, this is what we're doing. And I hope you guys enjoyed watching and listening. Thank you so much for being here. And until my next video, I hope you guys have a great day, whatever you're doing, and God bless. Bye.